Hello and welcome to the Highline Bridge Replacement Project online public meeting. Thank you for the patience while we allowed people a few extra minutes to log on. A quick update on the governor's modified open meeting regulations. On March 12th, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law to enable public bodies to carry out their responsibilities while adhering to public health recommendations regarding social distancing. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and posted online following the meeting. Alan, can you take over?
Yes, thanks, Mike. So welcome to the meeting. For those of you who have never attended one of these meetings before, my name is Alan Belniak, and I'm going to help produce the meeting and run you through some of the administrative items as we walk through the presentation and take some public comment. As Mike mentioned a moment ago, this meeting is being recorded, and to prevent disruptions, your web camera and your microphone will be turned off during the main portion of the meeting, and you'll be muted for the duration of that delivery portion until we get to the questions and answers at the end. Again, we will open it up for Q&A and general commentary after the conclusion of the main presentation. We do ask that you only share one question at a time in order to give everyone an opportunity to participate. If you do have a second or more than one question or comment, we certainly invite you to do that. But please just keep it to one question, and then after your turn's over, you can get right back in the virtual line and ask or comment again after that. If we do run out of time, the project team is accepting email questions and commentary, and you can send an email to highlinebridge, that's all one word, highlinebridge@mbta.com. Again, highlinebridge@mbta.com, and we'll display that at the end of the presentation as well. As with a standard public meeting in person, we're going to ask attendees to identify themselves so we have a record of who attended. If your name on Zoom doesn't clearly reflect who you are, please let us know, announce your name, and we'll take care of renaming that so we can interact with you through your given name. At the beginning of the Q&A session, if you again, just state your name if your name doesn't reflect it. In the Zoom webinar format, you don't quite necessarily have the ability to rename yourself. If you're calling in from a telephone, we might call upon you on the last couple of digits of your telephone number in order to let you know that it's your turn to speak. If you'd like to submit a text-based question, you can use the Q&A button down below, and it does just quite that. It's questions and answers. You can type in your question and we'll read it aloud. You can also use the raise hand feature. That's also in the buttons down below. By pressing the raise hand feature, it sends a signal to me that you'd like to speak. When the time's appropriate, we'll call out your name, we'll open up your microphone to let you to speak, or rather, we will send a command so you can open up your own microphone. You can ask your question or share your comment, and then after the answer starts, we'll put you back into the muted state. If you're dialing in from the telephone, you can still raise your hand, and that command is *9, and that will send a command again to raise your hand, and then when the opportunity is right, we'll ask to take yourself off mute, and that's going to be *6. And again, I'll remind everyone of how this process works once again at the beginning of the Q&A session. And please note that all participants asking questions are going to have their names read out loud for the public record. And so with that, I believe that covers all the administrative items. So I'm going to hand the presentation over back to Mike Ryan to continue. Mike?
Thank you, Alan. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Highline Bridge Replacement Project online public meeting. As Alan said, my name is Mike Ryan, and I'm the Senior Project Manager at the MBTA overseeing this project. I want to thank you all for your interest in the project and for taking the time tonight attending and participating on this online public meeting. I also want to thank any elected officials attending with us tonight. We look forward to hearing your comments and questions after the presentation. First, we'll start with an overview of the project history, scope of work, and schedule. We will discuss how and when the proposed work may affect you. This is an important project and a key component to our continuing efforts at the MBTA to bring the system into a state of good repair for the commuter rail. The Highline Bridge was originally built in 1927 and is approaching the end of its useful lifespan. While we're here today to discuss the Highline Bridge project, I'd also like to share that this project is part of a larger program, which includes the replacement of 6 different bridges, all within the commuter rail system. Accompanying me at this meeting are representatives from our design build team, Barletta Heavy Division and VHB, who I've asked to provide some additional detail and context related to the bridge replacement project. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Bob Penfield, one of the lead designers from VHB.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bob Penfield. I'm the design manager for this project, working for VHB. And on the screen, as you can see in front of you, is our title sheet for the slides that we'll be presenting tonight. As you can see on the screen, there's a rendering that we've developed that shows what the proposed bridge will look like on this particular site. And we'll get into some more detail of how we're going to get there as we progress this meeting. So next slide, please. As Mike mentioned, meeting with you today is Mike Ryan is the MBTA project manager, program manager for this design build project. Gary Orlando is our project manager with Barletta Heavy Division, myself, and then Andrew Burkholder, who is our senior engineer, my counterpart here at VHB. Next slide. We're going to discuss a few things at this meeting. First, we're going to provide a quick overview of this project and how it fits within a larger context of design build program with the MBTA. And we're going to get into some specifics on the bridge itself, discuss the site locations, existing conditions, the project needs and goals, talk about the bridge layout and its design, our proposed construction staging, and how traffic would be impacted during construction, and then discuss in a rough sense the project schedule. We'll discuss some other additional opportunities for public outreach, and then of course take any questions that you may have. Next slide, please. So as we've mentioned, this particular bridge is one of 6 bridges that are combined into a single design build program. We've got a bridge being replaced in Weston, one in Wellesley, one in Melrose, one in Lawrence, one in Lynn, and of course the one in Somerville, which we're here to talk about tonight. Next slide. These 6 bridges are located at various locations within the MBTA's commuter rail system. Highline, you can see it kind of in the center of the screen, and in Somerville, just north of Boston. Next slide, please. To give you a quick overview of the timeline of this project, it started back in 2016. Various consultants were working with the MBTA, progressing the preliminary design of these bridges, kind of individually. In 2017, the MBTA's Capital Delivery Group was looking for an opportunity to accelerate the pace of their projects, and they've decided to take those 6 individual bridge replacement projects and combine them into a single large program. They've also opted to use design build as the contract procurement method as a way to accelerate the project and to encourage more innovation. So from 2018 and 2019 was the design build procurement process. Ultimately, 3 teams proposed, and of 9 teams proposed, and of those 3 were shortlisted. Ultimately, the Barletta VHB team was selected as the best value. We had the highest tech score and the lowest price. So from 2019 to 2022, we've been progressing the final design and the construction of all 6 of these bridges. While now that specific schedule for each bridge varies, they all fall within that same 3-year period, with the final program being complete approximately August of 2022. Next slide. So the MBTA bridge carries the New Hampshire main line over freight rail system just west of I-93 and Lever Connector. You've probably seen it if you've ever been on the highway. And it's just north of 3rd Ave and just northeast of the what is the UPS Customer Center, again, within Somerville, near Interbelt Road. We can go to the next slide. What we've got here is an aerial view. We're going to zoom in. You can see some of the existing conditions and the site elements that have influenced our design of this project. We'll zoom in here and I'll walk you through those details. So again, here you can see an aerial showing the existing bridge, and then highlighted in kind of a shade of purple is the MBTA right away. Again, the existing, you can see the outbound and inbound New Hampshire mainline tracks. You can see the tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4 is that the freight yard below. And then you can see that we're showing construction just to the north and east of the existing bridge. We've got a shaded area referred to as new bridge construction, and we've got areas shaded discussing approach construction and then potential laydown area. We'll get into some specifics on how we're going to use those spaces as we progress the construction of this project just a little bit later. Oh, there we go. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Burkholder, who's going to walk through some of the more specifics on this project.
All right, thanks, Bob. So as Mike mentioned, the existing bridge was built in 1927. It's a two-track structure, as you can see here in the upper right picture. The one span consists of through truss, and another span consists of steel through girders, and it's supported by a center pier and then concrete spill-through abutments. Below the tracks, as Bob mentioned, we have 4 freight rail tracks and also a access road that you can see in the lower picture on the left-hand side of the lower picture. There's significant utilities at the site. The bridge itself carries some signal cables, and then there's a multitude of overhead and underground utilities on site, which we'll illustrate in just a minute. As far as the operations go, this is a busy bridge. There's 57 trains on weekdays, 16 trains on each weekend day, and then Amtrak also crosses this bridge with about 10 trains per day. So this project is needed because the existing bridge is in poor condition. And so in the MBTA's continuing effort to provide that safe and efficient transportation system, this bridge was identified as one that needed to be replaced to maintain that state of good repair for its infrastructure. Again, the project goals, we want to maintain that state of good repair for the infrastructure, replace this structure with one that is going to provide at least a 75-year design life and be resilient. And we want to complete this project while minimizing the impacts to the abutters, the commuter rail riders, of course, and then the local businesses in this area. So to do that, we're going to have a complete bridge replacement. And as Bob mentioned, this bridge will be built offline. So the tracks will be realigned to allow us to build this bridge just to the north of the existing structure, minimizing that disruption to commuter rail traffic. The new bridge will be a 2-span structure with new abutments and a new pier, and it will be a through girder bridge, which we'll show in just a minute. And we don't anticipate any impacts to the existing right-of-way. So this graphic at the bottom is a cross-section of the bridge as if you were standing down on the tracks below. You can see in gray at each end are new abutments supported by driven piles and concrete approach slabs. Then in the middle, you can see a new pier, again, supported by steel piles. And then the bridge here, just to highlight the superstructure, the steel beams, it's shown in blue. Actual bridge color will be black as we've shown on the cover slide. But again, as I mentioned, it's a 2-span bridge. Underneath the access road and the 4 tracks. The graphic on this slide is a cross section or a typical section. If you're up on the tracks themselves, you can see the 3 girders supporting the 2 tracks. The track alignment is curved, and that's why you see the tracks kind of leaning. It's super elevated to help the trains get around the curve. And this will be a ballasted deck. The ballast is shown here in gray. This view is an overhead view of the access road that passes beneath the tracks. And this is meant to show the limits of the realignment and the reconstruction of this road. The new abutments are shown in the maroon color to the left. I guess it's a new abutment and a new pier shown in this picture. And it shows that this road is going to be realigned just a little bit at the curve at the left end to miss our new abutment. And then the dark shaded area shows the limits of repaving for this road at the end of the project. And then you saw this slide on our, or saw this graphic on our title slide. This is what the bridge will look like in its final condition. Again, steel through girder bridge, 2-span, and then some concrete walls that will form the approaches. Now, we'd like to play a short animation, and this animation will go through the construction of the bridge at this site. So we're going to get a little dizzy here. We start off with an overhead view. This is the same general view that Bob showed earlier with Interstate 93 on the right. And this is a commercial industrial area of Somerville. You can see all the rail infrastructure around it and the freight rail tracks passing beneath. And then the access road that connects to 3rd Avenue is on the left-hand side that runs under the bridge. So the first step here, as I mentioned, there's a significant amount of utilities, both overhead and underground, and some running on the bridge. So our first step is to get those out of the way so that we can build this bridge offline to the north of the existing bridge without those utilities being a conflict. And so here you can see we're illustrating the multitude of utilities that are here and our plan to relocate these prior to construction on site. So again, so they're out of the way, so we're not having any disruptions with utilities. So once we get the utilities out of the way, underground for the most part, the next step would be to install a gravel access road to access some electrical equipment the MBTA has at this site. And then we would start driving piles for the substructure. So here you can see driving piles for the abutment. And this would be repeated here for one abutment. Then we would go in between the tracks, do the same operation for the pier, new pier. And then on the other side, we would put in the piles for the other abutment. So once that's complete, we can construct the concrete abutment and piers. You'll see these come in pretty quick. This will support the new bridge, and then the new approaches are constructed. These you saw more in an overhead view. These allow us to tie into the existing tracks and build the bridge offline to the north. Next step here is to assemble the superstructure, each span. And here you can see, again, we're showing the beams in blue just to highlight them for the sake of the presentation. You can see the cranes installing the first girder, and then the floor beam and deck plate system and panels. Next, they would bring in the center girder, and then repeat the process with the floor beam and deck panels. And again, you can see we don't show trains running on the commuter tracks, the active tracks, but this is all occurring while the commuter rail tracks are in service. So now one span is complete and the process repeats for the second span. So once we have the steel superstructure assembled, you'll see this view spin around a little bit and it'll show kind of final completion of the steel detailing. And once that's complete, we can install the ballast and the new tracks. So you can see the final steel detailing being installed, the new ballast, and then the new tracks will be installed. So at this point, the new bridge is complete, the approaches are complete, and we can have trains now shifted over to the new alignment over the new bridge. Once those trains are shifted over and train traffic is shifted over, this allows us to demolish the existing bridge. So the idea here is we would remove the existing superstructure, the steel through girder span, the steel truss span, and then also that center pier would also be removed. The existing abutments will remain in place to support fill. And then final step is to repave that access road, as I mentioned. And then at that point, the project is complete for this location. Right.
Thanks, Andrew.
Sure.
So as Andrew indicated, the construction of the new bridge will be adjacent to the existing bridge. This is intended to minimize impacts to the commuter rail system in general, and as well as the traveling public. As you know, this location is not located over a heavily traveled roadway. It is an access driveway to connect to Metro Pipe and some other adjacent businesses. But there is recognizing that the Interbelt Road is going to be used as the primary detour, sign detour for folks to get in and around the site in the surrounding neighborhood. So we've kind of illustrated this on this detour plan here. If you were traveling along that access road / private driveway, the sign detour effectively would just have you continued along 3rd Ave, go underneath the bridge at Interbelt Road, and then back around. Of course, if you're coming from the north, it would just be the opposite of that. But again, we're not really having any impacts to the traveling public essentially here. So, but this is the sign detour that we would be implementing in advance of the construction, for the public and for everyone to see. So next slide. Our construction schedule will be as follows. Some of the initial site clearing has already happened, clearing some of the older trees and some of the brush in and around the bridge approaches. Some additional follow-on site prep will be starting up spring of 2021. The foundation work, as Andrew illustrated, winter and early spring of 2021 as well. The construction of the new bridge will happen between spring and fall of 2021, with the approach wall, embankments, and track construction continuing on to through spring and summer of 2022. At that point, we would have shifted the tracks over onto the new infrastructure, and then start demoing the existing bridge would happen in fall of 2022. And again, that the last part of this project, the site cleanup, repaving of the access road, et cetera, would all be happening in fall of 2022 as well. Next slide. There's several ways to reach us for this project. We have a project website that's been established, unique for this particular bridge, www.mbta.com/Highline Bridge. And on that website, you'll see project updates, additional information about the project, the history of the project, and that will be updated as we get closer to construction as well. We have an email address for any questions or comments that might come as a result of this meeting, or if you want to reach the project team, highlinebridge@mbta.com. And we also have a 24-hour telephone hotline, the number here on the bottom of the screen, 617-571-7878. So with that, we'll take any questions, and that concludes our presentation here. So Alan.
Great, thanks, Bob. So this is Alan Belniak again, and just one more reminder, this meeting is being recorded for archiving purposes. And at this point, I'd like to facilitate the question, answer, and commentary portion of the meeting now. So we're going to respond first to questions and comments that have submitted using the Q&A feature down below in your set of Zoom controls, and then followed by those who use the raise hand feature. Again, the option is available in the Zoom controls below, or *9 if you're dialing in on the telephone. First, however, we'd like to give an opportunity for any elected officials who are present the chance to speak. I know a moment ago we had an elected official, but I no longer see them present. But in the event there's another elected official here who'd like to speak first, please feel free to use the raise hand feature so we can identify you. And Mike, do you want to take it from here to see or scan one more call for elected officials?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. If there is any elected officials, please use the raise hand feature. I don't believe there is any. I'm just checking. I don't think we have any pre-questions in the Q&A. So if there's any participant who would like to ask a question, please do the raise hand feature.
Okay, so we'll give it a moment for those. We do see a question in the Q&A. Okay, and I will read that out loud. So this question comes from Mr. Stefan Lynch, if I'm reading it correctly. Stefan asks, if I am reading the diagram and illustrations correctly, it appears that the new eastern abutment is to be about 25 feet out from the existing abutment. It appears that this original bridge span had clearance for perhaps as many as 6 tracks. Was there an analysis of future rail needs in this area to identify if this new narrower span would possibly hinder future expansion?
Well, thank you for the question, Stefan.
Perhaps Bob might be able to
Yeah,
jump in.
I was just rereading it. I'm not 100% sure if he's asking about the tracks underneath or the tracks up top.
I would interpret this question to mean the tracks down below in the freight yard.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if I'm happy to respond to this, and to assist me, Andrew, could you bring up the slide that shows a plan view of the proposed bridge and kind of the existing tracks that are down below?
So this is Kate. I just would maybe ask that Stefan, if he wants to clarify his question.
Yes,
So
he actually,
we're
he
sure
just
we're on
has.
the right track. He can raise his hand and Alan can
Sure.
mute him.
Okay, Stefan, I do see your hand raised. I'm going to send a command for you to open your mic and you can offer some clarity on your question.
Great, thanks. How does my audio sound to everybody?
Great.
Excellent. Yes, you're right. I'm curious about the ground level freight tracks. I'm well aware that there's only the 4 running underneath now. I'm just thinking ahead. You know, is this new bridge, is this slightly narrower span going to be any possible hindrance to additional expansion for freight in the area, or even if you know, something like a western route connection to the Fitchburg route was ever going to happen? I mean, well, I guess maybe I'll ask a very more specific question. What would be the maximum number of tracks that could go under that new, slightly narrower eastern side span?
Mike, if you'd like, I can jump in.
Yeah, go right ahead, Bob.
Okay, Stefan, great question. So a little bit of a backstory. We had some significant coordination with MBTA, of course, and their railroad ops group at the kind of early phases of this project design to discuss their current and future operational needs. So where we landed as far as a minimum amount of space underneath was to certainly provide space for 4 tracks, and that was intended to encompass and account for any future operational needs in this area. They're very underutilized in the present condition right now, and looking at it, they actually essentially only have 3 tracks underneath this bridge. Technically, there's 4 under the bridge specifically, but they actually are merging together just north of this bridge. So there's short answer long, there is ample room for additional track capacity underneath this bridge for all future anticipated needs.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that question, Stefan. So scanning the Q&A, there is, let me mark that as done. Okay. So just one more call for anyone else who would like to raise their hand. Okay, so Stefan, I do see your hand raised. There's no other questions at the moment, so we'll go back to you. So once again, I'll send a command to open your mic. You unmute, and the floor is yours.
Excellent, and I'll assume that the audio is still working fine. The second question is completely unrelated to the first. I believe that when the project was first announced, I think I had heard that the very, very early plan was to divert the New Hampshire route traffic off onto a reconstructed freight at grade line that parallels New Washington Street, and then hook around over into the Yard 8 connection kind of near FX. I thought originally that was quite brilliant because that would allow for replacing the bridge while it was completely without traffic. But after inspecting this, it seems that this obviously prevents the interference at the grade level that single track near New Washington Street. I'm just curious, was I wrong about that? What I thought I had heard about diverting to the New Washington Street freight at grade track? Or if I'm not wrong, how was that eliminated in favor of widening the embankments?
Thank you for the question. I may turn this over to Bob. I don't know, Bob has a little bit more history on the project than I do. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or if that was even before the design build phase.
Mike, that sounds like it was before the design build phase of the project. So I wasn't aware of that necessarily having been discussed. I can't really speak to the operational challenges that might have posed if there was actually capacity and the ability to move commuter rail on that alternative route and allow this bridge to be replaced kind of in its current location. But the approach that we have here does minimize impacts to that commuter rail system very well. So that's an interesting thought, Stefan, but I wasn't aware of that as an option that was available to us. So.
That's fine. Like I said, I'm very pleased with how this plan is going forward. I guess maybe just a last very quick question is, do you expect there to be any change in the speed limit for that section? Because I believe the curve is changing its radius just slightly to be a slightly tighter curve at one point. Do you know if it's going to affect speeds, and which would then of course affect timetables at all? If you don't know, that's okay.
Mike, sorry, I can jump in on that too if you'd like to.
Go right ahead, Bob.
All right. We have it designed for a 35-mile-an-hour track design speed, equal to what it's currently designed for. So while the radius does get slightly smaller, it does not impact the design speed for the trains. So,
excellent. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah, very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you for that. Let me just, all right, let me scan once more for Q&A. I don't see any other text-based questions in our Q&A. Also scanning the horizon here, I don't see any other net new hands raised. So we'll give it, I guess, one more call for questions and answers from our attendees to see. I'm sorry, one more call for questions, not questions and answers. We're going to hopefully provide the answers. One more call for questions from the attendees, please. Okay, Mike, with that, I don't see anything net new. So if you want to close us out, and if I see anything pop up during your close, I'll be sure to flag it. But at the moment, I don't see any open hands or any text-based questions.
Thank you, Alan. Once again, I'd just like to thank the design build team for presenting the online meeting tonight. I'd like to thank everybody who was able to join us. I'd like to just remind you, if you do have additional questions, feel free to use the email that was shown at the end of the slide. You can also sign up for project notifications. We'll have Bob quickly put that back up on the slide if you want to write that down. So feel free to log on and you'll get notifications of different major steps in the process. And once again, thank you for taking the time to come out and learn about the project.
All right. With that, everyone, just one more, I think, final concluding remark. There was one more item sent into the Q&A. It was actually not a question, just a comment from Stefan saying, just very well done. Thanks for the great presentation. Excellent work on this project. Stefan, I can only assume you mean all the other projects as well. At least that's how I'm going to interpret it, but you did say for this project. But thank you for that. Thanks for coming out and having an active interest. We certainly appreciate it. That's why we have these meetings. So great, appreciate seeing that. So with that, everyone, I'm going to stop the recording and bid you all a good evening.